It's a return grudge match. This is Stan the Lariat Hansen versus Vader.
Yeah.
Tricky match to book. You want to get across the fact that these two guys will be on your WCW in Japan card and they will be super over.
Yep.
So you may as well get the American fans used to them. They cannot lose, either of them, in this because they are both got their big careers in Japan. Neither of them allowed to job cleanly. So they have to go for a double disqualification. What they do here is they basically sort of go, here is a showcase for our legendary feud that is happening in Japan, which you may have heard about. And the reason you may have heard about that was the 1990 Tokyo Dome Super Fight, which is one of the stiffest matches of all time, which is it's not their best match. It's not the best match you'll ever see, but it is one of the few matches you will see where one man has his eye knocked out by the other and they continue in a fixed competition mockery.
Just shut it down.
Shut it down.
Once a man has managed to get his eye, bearing in mind you've only got mere seconds to get it back in before the old retina starts all detection.
Yep.
Big Van Vader is just going, oh, my eye is coming out, and he just looks like it just looks like his eyes.
It looks like there's an egg that's somehow got under his eyelid, and
oh dear.
They carry on. I mean, what a stupid. People are always like, it's so tough, such a tough guy, so dedicated to the sport.
It's just
you
your eyes come out,
stupid
mate.
moron,
your eyes come
you
out.
stupid, stupid boy. It did look like a real fight. This, I mean, again, you lose an eye. I think there's something to be said that a line's been crossed. But I saw someone describe saying if the goal of wrestling is to simulate real combat, then that particular match achieved that to perfection. Again, the word simulate there. Your eye should stay where it comes from.
No, Haku can get them if they're outside.
No.
You can pop them.
They have a little bit of fighting on the ramp here, which is very unusual in the US at this time. Again, something that we're so used to now. And that really tells you from the off, they go, this is not going to be a normal match. This is going to be a wild brawl. And chair shots at this point often teased, rarely happen.
Yeah.
And here they just smack it over each other's head. And the crowd are just like, this is fantastic. Love this.
As Dusty says, this action got me flowing.
And there's the tobacco juice all over the ring everywhere.
Which stays.
I think Stan Hansen only really did that in like WCW, where he used to do it coming to the ring and things like that, but never in like Japan did he let a load of tobacco go all over the place and people going, oh, that's disgusting. I mean, this is just like fucking dog shits everywhere, like big lumps, plugs of tobacco. And blah, it's all down his face. I love how he's just like, this isn't work, this is a holiday when I come to WCW. And I'll roll around like a big whale, like, and I'll shout and I'll just have a great time. And I love watching these. Absolutely love them.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was one of my favourite matches on there. It wasn't. You
Really
wouldn't say it was a great match, but it was good. I love Big Van Vader's big Chaos Engine kind of fucking medieval football suit. It's
great.
Like spells air.
He's got a mask on, all good wrestlers should have. Also holding his face in one piece. I mean, look, things like this match, two big guys in 1991. They were normally big, fat, lazy slugs.
Yes.
And they are not. They are just pounding seven shades of shit out of each other. And the crowd are like, yes, this is exactly what we came here to see.
Yeah.
They are so much fun. There's a great visual of the referee, Pee Wee Anderson.
Referee?
Oh, my little Pee Wee, huh? And there's a lovely visual. They're on their knees punching each other, and he comes standing up to separate them. Yeah. And they're all the same height. Just a really nice thing of getting how big they are. Stan Hansen pushes him. He decides to throw the match out as double disqualification. Yeah. I mean, in that situation, it should actually have been Stan Hansen was disqualified and Vader should have won. If we're going to bother doing this sport at all, why don't we do it properly?
Pop your eye back in and let's do this properly.
But then they fight all the way to the back.
But they disappear, and it is reported by Jim Ross and Dusty Rhodes that they are still fighting on the runway, and the camera never actually cuts them fighting, so you don't know. Like, Jim Ross is looking over and he says, we can't start the next match until this is sorted out. It's not sorted out. We don't see any of it.
What's funny about that, I always think, is that the attempt to go, this is legitimately out of control? Because in that situation, a director would say, cut away from that. Like when you see fighting in football, cut away, camera 4. Okay, look over there.
There's a woman topless and she's running around the pitch.
It may be a double disqualification officially, but this fight is still on. Football tackle by Big Stan Hansen.
I love the bell ringing fruitlessly. It's so fun when it's like a thing and they're fighting back and the guy on the bell is just like, I'm going to keep ringing this bell. Like they haven't heard. But if they just stop fighting, they'll hear it and then it will all calm down. I love it. What's really good about that decision to fight all the way back, the crowd boo when it's a double disqualification. They wanted to see more of this. Double DQ. Oh, fucking ref.
Yeah.
And then by fighting all the way back, the crowd aren't like, that was disappointing. The crowd like, oh, that was great. Just carried on.
Yeah.
They really hate each other. Magic.
Boy, Randy Anderson looks like a small child in there with these guys.
He is a small child. These are men, big men, bad men, ugly men, vicious men, and right now they're getting at it toe to toe.
So, the important thing about this week, Pete, the key event
in the
wrestling calendar is the release of Superfan, the documentary about Vladimir.
Mark, I was so excited. You've watched it?
I have, yeah. It's very short. I think it's barely half an hour. Content-wise, it's thin. But what it is a really, really nice, open, sort of like hearted just celebration of Vladimir, a superfan who's been going to see WWF shows since the 80s and who amazingly got involved in a couple of the early ones. Roddy Piper called him up to say, who do you want me to team with next month at the Garden to take on Paul Orndorff? And Vladimir had to shout out, Hulk Hogan! And then he went back to his seat. But what it was a celebration of someone. He's only ever missed one WrestleMania. You suddenly realise, you sort of go, he spends a lot of money on this. And he's 64 now. So when this documentary was made, he was 62. And it followed in the wake of the COVID pandemic, where it basically showed him just saying, without wrestling, I don't really have anything. His mother had died during the pandemic, which was obviously absolutely devastating for him. And without wrestling being on as well, he felt like everything was coming to an end.
How did they make such a thin documentary out of such a heavy fucking...
Well, it's just beautiful going to follow someone who... I mean, it's one of the things that wrestling doesn't really celebrate. It celebrates the stars and it celebrates the behind-the-scenes people, but what it doesn't do is celebrate the fans. The fans are always such an important part of it. All the way from... There was a woman called Georgian Macropolis, and she used to run Bruno Sammartino's fan club. And she was one of these fans who would put out her own newsletter and things like that. And she became one of these people who, if anyone contacted her, she would have a pen pal relationship with them. These gorgeous people who, when they pass away, there's sort of a couple of lines of obituary and everything, but they do so much to share the love of pro wrestling, which often pro wrestlers don't do. They find it a cutthroat business.
We don't do it with Snyder's fuck. We make it worse.
Well, they get ripped off. One of the things they showed that I was so keen on, they go into Vladimir's flat. He lives on the Upper East Side in Manhattan. An address which is now burned in my brain. I explain why. But they go in. It's a very, very small apartment. And he's made it smaller by lining the walls with wrestling merchandise from over the years. So the sort of hallway into the house, it was just lined with loads of padded chairs, they've got events on them that he folded up and put against the wall. And there was a little bit where he takes you into a strange configuration, almost like a massive internal room with no windows, which is just his merch room. And it's 8 thick on the walls of everything. This is the flag with the Hulk Hogan blood on it, and he's from Haiti originally.
Oh, is he?
As you could see the blood right here. Blood's right here. You could see that's blood, that's Hulk Hogan blood.
Yeah, he's got quite a thick accent. And I think that's one of the things as well, that when the WWF made this documentary, they began going, our problem is we can't let him talk very much. He subtitled it his documentary, Vladimir.
Okay.
That merch room, I mean, with the lack of windows, Pete, that is a perfect way to stop UV damage on packaging. Those things are going to look crisp and as nice as the day they were bought.
Not by design, just by the way it sort of
It looked like a dungeon, but a dungeon full of wrestling merch. And that is a dungeon I would happily be trapped in.
How many wrestling dungeons? Stu Hart's dungeon, no. Vladimir's dungeon, yes.
He had an old guitar that Honky Tonk Man has smashed over the head of the Hart Foundation or whatever. And lovely to see his passion. I think that one of the unsung parts of wrestling is the lack of appreciation for fans and fandom.
And I think sometimes they sort of focus on the loud, silly fans rather than the quiet, just lovely fans. Because we met Vladimir. You've met Vladimir.
Well, we did. That's right, at WrestleCon. And it was a pleasure to see him. And Vladimir is really
sweet.
A key sort of part of that is that Vladimir understands how to be a fan.
Yes.
And
it's not about you.
No, he cheers the good guys. He is excited to see the good guys win. He boos the bad guys. And he is always shaking his arms up and down just with the sheer joy of being at the wrestling. And what happened, of course, is that the wrestlers were so used to seeing him at ringside that he became a thing that they knew every month they went to Madison Square Garden. There would be Vladimir in the first couple of rows, and that he would give them the response they were hoping for. And And what you have in this documentary that is really sweet is they get Hulk Hogan in, and they've got Shawn Michaels.
Oh God, Hulk.
I think Hulk's very much on the comeback trail.
Comeback PR.
He is. He's got a very twinkly, friendly look in this. And it's almost like he's been given PR lessons.
Yeah, and also he must look at something like AEW bringing in Ric Flair and sort of going, well, maybe the doors aren't quite as sealed
the doors
shut.
have actually opened in the last month. So earlier this month, Hogan did actually sign a WWE contract. So he is under contract. That could be a sort of, a bit of a Legends contract. It could be a bit of an ambassador contract. They aren't rushing to go, we've got him back.
No,
but they do have him back.
Presumably next time AEW tries a Tuesday night or whatever war.
Yeah.
Bring Hulky out to do some NXT.
I got some stuff to say about all the wrestlers of colour in AEW. God, no. We said all the wrestlers. All the wrestlers. Yeah, brother, I'm just, getting my shit in. But it was lovely to hear them talking about how great Vladimir was specifically. And it did become a little bit of a celebration by the WWE of the WWE.
Yeah.
Where they then give him a sort of plaque saying, you're the official first super fan. And it's slightly like, don't corporatise fandom.
Why do they have to do this?
Yeah.
Oh, we've released an exclusive Vladimir NFT.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck off.
Vladimir is the first official sanctioned superfan. Would you like to be a sanctioned superfan? It's all that sort of, But that said, Vladimir was clearly very, very touched and very absolutely the culmination of everything he ever wanted. Yeah. What's really funny is there's a parallel story, which is it's also involving his friend who is called Chris. And Chris has been at every single one of these shows with Vladimir.
Oh, no.
But Chris is a short guy with a greasy sort of like ponytail. He's got a very sort of chewy New York, hey, bada bing sort of voice. And they have obviously looked at him and gone, not as iconic, but also looks a bit like a wrestling fan.
Yes,
and so they don't tell you the story. I imagine he's doing perfectly. I got my own landscaping business. No, it's not. I like Vladimir's thing.
What does Vladimir do outside of? Does he just have a bit of...
He does have a job. I can't quite remember if they actually tell you what it is.
Right. Okay.
But he's been doing that job for a number of years, and that is how he affords to go to wrestling. He saves
Union
his money.
buster. Vladimir.
The documentary brings up the fact that a lot of fans used to think that Vladimir. A rumor went around that he was Vince McMahon's personal trainer, which is why he was always.
Always hanging around.
And they half-heartedly do a thing going, but was he? And they ask him, he goes, no, I was never Vince McMahon's personal trainer. And then they're like, okay, what do we do for the rest of the doc? But it is sort of great. What's funny is you get people, the wrestlers slowly sort of saying, the fans really are the missing part of that. And you go, lockdown proved one thing, and that is that the fans are every bit as important as anything that happens in the ring.
Yeah.
A symbiotic relationship. You can't have one without the other, really. Although we did have one without the other, and it was just crap.
It's fine.
That's proof of the hard work I've done. I'm not part of the show, but I'm part of the family. Dream come true, man. This process.
It's been lovely. It's been emotional. We've learned about masks. We've learned about...
sorry. Did you hear a podcast that was more interesting this week about someone losing an eye in a fictional fight? No, you didn't.
No. Did he actually lose his eye?
No, he didn't.
No,
he had it pop back in.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine it did it any good.
It's no idea. There's that one guy who you used to see on telly quite a good pop. I think a woman could do it as well. Pop her eyes out.
Yeah.
And then but it just takes... It's the same sort of thing at school, the kids who could turn their eyelids inside out.
Yeah.
It only takes a slip.
Absolutely. Would you know, there was actually a kid in my school, I might have told you this story before, but there was a kid in my school, and he had an eye that went out to one side, and he is one of the only genuine children that we knew of. He was about 3 years above us. He had basically been swinging on a chair on two legs, like you're told not to.
Yeah.
And he had rolled backwards, and he had got a compass in his eye.
Oh, come on. That's a lie, isn't it? I think you're being
double
taken.
whammy.
I think you're being taken for a ride there, Mark.
His dad used to own the Ray-Ban factory, so he was given a lifetime's free supply. Yeah.
This is like a Kane Genesis story.
And he went to the high school prom with Beyonce. The first two are genuinely real, but as I say them out loud, I think, no, that does sound like bullshit.
I was watching...
Maybe he had something congenital. Made up a cover story.
I was watching...
It's just beyond this door.
What is?
My playroom. It's important that you know you can leave at any time.
Oh my God. You're a sadist?
I'm a dominant.
What does that mean?
As you could see the blood right here. Blood's right here. As you could see, that's his blood. That's Hulk Hogan blood.